The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
It's time to get it straight. No Chaser with Jasmyne Cannick.
Overall, it's just a good thing.
Tap into the conversation. Check 1, 2. As Jasmyne covers the latest issues affecting our community and the world.
It is absolutely vital that the truth comes out.
This is Str8 No Chaser with Jasmyne Cannick.
Let's go, man.
Hey everybody, we made it through another week. Happy to be back again. Took a couple of weeks off. Happy to be here. Got lots to talk about today. I'm very excited about today's podcast, today's guest. My name is Jasmyne Cannick. This is my podcast, Str8 No Chaser. It literally means what the title is. We have frank conversations without all the BS. We keep it real here. I am in Leimert Park at Morris Media Studios. Hey, Poetess, how are you? How was your week? All was good? Okay, we made it through another week, right? A couple things got shut down, but we're still here. I'm a little frustrated about the nail shop closures, but I know it's for a good cause. And so, yeah, we're going to jump right into it because what I have realized in all of my years on radio and doing television and doing, podcasts like this is that 60 minutes goes by really, really fast. It sounds like a lot of time, but it is not a lot of time once you get into a really good conversation. And I am super excited about today's conversation. It is a conversation that we're going to have with a young lady that I have a lot of admiration for and a lot of respect for. You might have saw her story on NBC4 last week, or maybe you read the piece that I wrote on Medium about her situation. She's a young sister who lives in the Antelope Valley. And for those who are not familiar with where the Antelope Valley is in Los Angeles County in the state of California, it is sort of like the wild, wild west. It's sort of like the stepsister of LA, 50 or so miles away, but still a part of LA County. It is a part of LA County that is still somewhat reasonable in terms of home buying. And so you've had a lot of black flight. You've had a lot of black people who have left LA proper, left the urban area of Los Angeles and moved their families out to Lancaster and Palmdale and Little Rock and areas out there where it was much more affordable and they could obtain, their slice of the American dream, which is owning a home. So we went from having a very low black population out there to a very large black population out there. And with that change has come a lot of problems. Depending on who you ask, folks will say that the only people more scarier than the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists that call the Antelope Valley home are the sheriffs that patrol that area. And what we're going to do is speak with a young woman today who, was minding her own business when the sheriffs came and knocked on her door. And I think her story is very important because a lot of times we talk about what happens when people are killed by the police or they're killed by the sheriffs. We don't always talk about what happens to the people who aren't killed and what they're left with and what they have to live with and what they have to work through. And I think that it's equally important that we lift up those stories, particularly the stories around black women and what happens to us. And this was one of those stories that really, really, really moved me as a black woman. It really upset me. I'm still very angry about it. And I'm just so excited that this young lady is joining me along with another very, very close friend of mine who's coming on. I'm going to introduce them both shortly. But first, I want you to take a look at this video clip.
And this cell phone video recording may be a key piece of evidence in her civil rights lawsuit against the department. The NBC4i team has obtained a copy of the case, and investigative reporter Eric Leonard has her story.
This is a recording of the woman being ordered out of her home last July by sheriff's deputies who forced open her front door while she was in the shower.
I just broke my door down.
The video shows the male deputies after they ordered her to walk downstairs naked, where she was handcuffed, briefly covered, then, as alleged in the lawsuit, led to her front yard, where she was in view of more deputies and neighbors. The woman's 13-year-old sister, who also lives in the home, documented the incident on video.
He opened my cover, like released it so it could drop. So when that dropped, I fell to the ground.
The woman who filed the suit as a Jane Doe because of the nature of the allegations spoke with the I-Team but did not want her face or real name revealed. She says when she was taken outside, she rolled over to try to cover herself. Then the deputies told her to stop resisting.
All the officers came and just bomb rushed and jumped on top of me, was touching my butt, my private area, my legs, all of the stuff. My officer had his hand in my head. He had his knee in my neck.
She says she was hogtied and put in a patrol car.
I was drugged across my grass. I was on my menstrual period. So I'm completely undressed in my front yard, and I'm being drugged across my grass.
The deputies said they were there looking for the woman's brother, who was wanted on an assault charge. This booking record shows at the time the woman was being handcuffed, the brother was already being arrested in South Los Angeles, many miles away.
There's too much aggression and too little compassion, not enough compassion.
Attorney Brian Dunn has sued the sheriff's department over this incident. He says there was no reason for the male deputies to put their hands on his client, who he says posed no threat.
You had a vulnerable woman who was partially clothed, and there was no regard for her dignity as a woman that was shown, and there was no regard for her personal safety.
The lawsuit claims it was an unconstitutional search. The county has denied the allegations in a court filing. The sheriff's department says in a statement it cannot address the allegations in the lawsuit or why the deputies cuffed the woman at all, since other officers were arresting her brother at the other end of the county. Due to pending litigation, the department is unable to comment. The woman says nearly a year later she's still in shock and says she's hopeful this lawsuit leads to greater accountability. Her brother was wanted in an assault case, and 4 days after this search, the LA County District Attorney's Office dropped the case, citing a lack of evidence. I'm investigative reporter.
One of my absolute favorite reporters in Los Angeles County, Eric Leonard, did that for NBC LA last week, and I wanted to sort of frame our conversation today before I introduced our guest so that folks who aren't aware of this story are now aware of what we're going to talk about, what we're going to get into. And so with that, before I introduce my guest, a couple of ground rules. So today I brought in my gavel. So yes, the court of public opinion is now open. You can, give me all of your questions, all of your comments. I have it set up right here. I'm going to be reading them because after I wrote this story, I got flooded with emails and comments and questions. And so we have the two people who were featured in that piece with me tonight. So you will get to ask them whatever you want. Just put it in the Facebook comments and I'll see it and I will read it. And with that, I want to introduce Jane Doe. Jane Doe is 25. She's a mother, she's a sister, and she's a daughter. Before the incident we're going to talk about, she had no criminal record and was minding her own business, living in Lancaster with her mother, sister, and young son. Jane Doe, thank you so much for being here. Are you there, Jane Doe? Okay, we got to get your volume turned up. Also with Jane Doe is someone else who I have a lot of respect for, who does a lot of great work in the community, attorney Brian Dunn. Brian Dunn is the managing partner of the Cochran firm in Los Angeles. He has spent his entire career with the Cochran firm. He was originally hired by Johnny Cochran himself in the summer of 1992 as a law clerk, assigned to legal research and the preparation of pleadings dealing with civil rights litigation, with an emphasis on police misconduct cases. As an attorney, he has handled many of LA's most high-profile police misconduct cases, including those involving Geronimo Pratt, Reginald Denny, Devin Brown, Taisha Miller, and I could go on and on and on. As one of the most experienced working advocates for victims of police misconduct in the state of California, Brian Dunn has a proven track record of victory against the largest municipalities in the state, often in the most complex and misunderstood circumstances surrounding officer-involved shootings. Brian Dunn is definitely continuing the legacy and great work of his mentor and predecessor, Mr. Johnny Cochran. Thank you so much, Brian, for being here today.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. It's such an honor to be working with you on this great case.
So, yes, let's get into it. Jane Doe. Jane, everybody wants to know. People have a lot of questions about what happened to you, but I think what we should do first is just sort of you explain to people what happened. Like, you were minding your own business at home taking a shower, right?
Right.
So walk us through it.
Okay, so basically what happened.
You're going to have to speak up a little louder so we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I have to put you on speaker.
Thank you.
Okay, so basically what happened, I was in the shower, and I had music playing through the little speaker box that I had in the bathroom. So as I'm in the shower, I could just hear like a loud bang, like something's falling. It sounds like something's real loud, and I felt the vibration in the bathtub. So something just told me to get out and go check to see what happened, because keep in mind, I do have a 5-year-old son, so I had to check to see what he was doing. So when I jumped out, all I heard was, "Hey, buddy, open the door, buddy." And I'm like, "Don't open the door for nobody." And once I said, "Don't open the door for nobody," that's when I hear Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department open the fucking door. I'm like, hold on. So my son is still downstairs. So I had to scream to him to tell him to come up the stairs, because I didn't want him to be just down there by himself. So I wanted him to come up the stairs. So I said, "Come up the stairs." He runs up. So they're pointing the gun through the door. So as I'm up the stairs, I'm telling them I'm undressed, and it's only me, myself, and my son and my 13-year-old sister. It's only us in here. And like, they're still, "Open the door, open the door, open the door." I'm like, "Sir, I'm undressed." He's looking at me through the screen door, and he's blocking his hand, like, because he could see me, so he's blocking his hand from his vision, but still pointing his weapon through the door. This is one officer that's at the door.
Mm-hmm.
So as I tried to go, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm scared, because I'm like, okay, let me go grab my phone, because he's like covering his eyes. He don't want to see me, so let me go grab my phone and start recording, because I'm already knowing at this point they finna tear the door down. So something just told me, get my phone and start recording. I grabbed my phone and I started recording. My little sister, she comes out of her room because she could hear me speaking to the officer, and she just starts crying. I'm like, "Joyce, stop crying, stop crying, stop crying." She's like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Next thing you know, they start taking the door off the hinges. As I'm telling him I'm undressed, he could see me clearly undressed, because he's covering his eyes because he could see me.
Right.
So I'm telling him I'm undressed. He's like, "Okay, well, still open the door." So I'll open the door. I'm like, "I'm not opening the door." That's when I said, "No, I'm not opening the door." That's when they started taking the door off the hinges. So when they took the door off, then that's when they all came in. And then when they all came in, I'm to the top of the stairs, and I'm like, "Where's the search warrant? Where's the search warrant?"
So hold on. When you say they all came in, let us be clear. Who came in? Did you see any female deputies?
No.
Was it all male deputies?
Yes, they were all male officers. There was no female in sight, and they just ran downstairs, because I have a 2-story house. So up the stairs is all the bedrooms, and you have one bedroom that's downstairs, and then you have the remainder of the house that's downstairs. So they all went just through the whole remainder of downstairs, and nobody came up the stairs. So they were already searching downstairs while I'm screaming for the search warrant once they came in.
And kudos to you for demanding that they show you the search warrant.
Thank you. So now at this point, I'm still recording, and I'm asking for the search warrant. They're ignoring me. And then they're just telling me, "Okay, well, now come down the stairs." I'm saying, "I'm not coming down the stairs." That's when I started scanning myself with my phone, and I said, "I'm undressed. I'm completely undressed, and this officer is demanding me to come downstairs. I'm undressed. He's telling me not to go grab no clothes. I'm scared to move because he's pointing guns at me, He's pointing guns at the children because they're crying. My son is screaming and hollering. My sister's screaming and hollering, and they pointing guns at them. So I'm like, okay, well, now I don't want to make them more nervous than what they already are because I'm not moving at their pace of them wanting me to come downstairs. One of the officers, he grabbed me, and when he grabbed me, I snatched away from him, and then that's when two officers came and grabbed me and snatched me off the top of the stairs. There's 4 more flights of stairs at the top of the stairs. So they snatched me down the stairs and started manhandling me. One officer actually put me in a chokehold as I was being manhandled for them to get my phone out of my hand. So I had enough strength to grab my phone to my sister, and I threw it to her on the stairs. So that's when she took the phone, and she started recording the remainder of everything that's going on and how they were choking me. Then they finally released the chokehold, and then they finally cuffed me because they claimed that I was moving. I was doing too much movement. And
right, and we saw in the video that aired on NBC that at one point they threw a blanket over you.
Yeah, so when I asked them to cover me up, they finally put the cuffs on me. And I asked them, well, they're trying to get the cuffs on me. And I asked them to go give me a cover. Go cover me up. And they're like, we don't got nothing. Well, I pointed in the direction of my brother's room. I said, get a cover off the bed. I told him to go get the cover off the bed. The officer went and grabbed the cover, and he went and threw it over my head as he coming back to me. He threw it over my head. So I snatched away from him to, move the cover off my head and said, don't throw nothing over my head. He said, I'm not trying to. I'm trying to cover you up. I said, no, yes, you were, because you threw it over me. You threw it over me. Not trying to cover me up. You threw it on me.
Yeah, you can clearly see that in the video. Like, it wasn't placed around you. It wasn't, placed with any sort of care or regard for you. It was just like, you were nothing. Let me just cover her up and throw this blanket on top of her.
Pretty much, they didn't even care the fact to go even get the blanket. I had to ask for the blanket. If I didn't ask, I would have walked out of my house naked.
And still all male deputies, right? At this point, it's still all men, right?
Completely, yes. Totally correct.
Okay, and what happens next?
So now, at this point, one of the main aggressing officers has now transferred me outside my house. So now, as he's holding on to me, he's barely holding on to the blanket. He's not even holding me. He's holding the cover. So he's not even touching me. He's holding the cover. So by the time we got to, I'll say, the edge of my garage, that's when I'm more visible to all the officers that's outside. You can see everything that's going on from right here. Once I got to that place, he takes the cover and he, releases it so it can drop. So when he does that, the cover fell all the way to the ground, and I fell after it, trying to catch it so nobody wouldn't see me.
And you really couldn't catch it because you were still in handcuffs, right?
Yeah, I was still in handcuffs, so I was pretty much trying to catch it with my legs, trying to lift my legs up to catch the cover, to cover me up with my legs. So when that happened, he snatched me like I don't know how to explain it. He snatched me to move me away from the blanket. So that's when I guess I started screaming, and then my next door neighbor, she came and she looked outside and she's trying to figure out what's going on, and he threw me to the ground. When he threw me to the ground, I lifted up to scream to her to call my mom, and I screamed out my mom's phone number to her.
Smart.
I screamed it out to her about maybe 3 times. After the 3rd time, it was pretty much shut up mode at this point. Now, you done said it too many times. If she don't hear you by now, oh well. That's pretty much what it was. And he slammed me to the floor. When he slammed me to the ground, that's when all the rest of the officers came and jumped on top of me. I had one officer actually come and sit on me. He sat on my head with one knee and put the other knee on my back. So he's sitting on me while the other officer is on top of me, touching me.
And you're naked.
Yes, inappropriate places, yes.
So people, everyone who's watching, listening to this, understand that when Jane Doe is telling you all of what is happening to her, she is butt naked on the lawn in front of her home.
And I'm still trying to grab my blanket. My blanket is literally, if I reach my leg out, I can grab it. So in the midst of me trying to reach my leg out to grab my blanket, one of the officers came and snatched the blanket away. He snatched it. So I couldn't even get to it. and that went slinging into the grass. And then I guess one officer came and jumped up. He grabbed my leg and dragged me across the grass. When he dragged me across the grass, that's when they all jumped back on me again. And then that's when one officer hollered out for the ties. In the midst of all this going on, I'm telling them to let me up. I'm telling them, can you please let me up, let me up, let me up? He's no. I said, so you're not going to let me up off my feet? He's like, it's too late for that. So when he hollered that it's too late for that, that's when he hollered for the ties. And he hollered for somebody to go get the ties.
The ties. To tie you up with.
Yeah, he said, go get the ties. Hey, go get the ties. So when he started hollering, go get the ties, I just started moving. Because it wasn't like I'm resisting. I'm moving because you guys are touching me in inappropriate places and you expect me to be still.
Wow.
And I'm handcuffed. You guys are on top of me and I'm handcuffed. And you guys are touching me and thinking it's funny. One officer touched me in my vagina and he said, oh shit. When he said, oh shit, they started laughing. So when I said, ain't no oh shit, what are you doing? You know what you're doing? He goes basically like ignore the fact that I know that you just touched me. So when you dragged me across the grass, they picked me up. I seen my kids. I seen the officers talking to the kids. So as they're talking to the kids, I'm screaming to the kids, don't talk to them. They're minor. Y'all minors. Don't talk to them. Y'all don't have nothing to say to them. Don't talk to them. Don't talk to them. Y'all minors. When I tell you, I kid you not, the officers dropped me because they were putting me in the car. They got my feet in, and then they dropped me. Once they were getting my upper body in the car, I fell up. My whole body fell onto the concrete, hanging out the car. When that happened, one of the officers went around the car. Excuse me.
Take your time. Take your time. Take your time, because I know when I asked you to come on the show that it was going to be, I hate asking people to have to relive horrible situations, but I do understand in having these conversations that we educate others and we share our stories, and that's how we get our stories out, right? But that doesn't mean it's any less painful or hard for you to do this. And so you're not being rushed. Take your time. I do want to tell all the people on Facebook who keep telling me there's a buzz. There is a buzz. Either turn it up, turn it down, do whatever you need to do to adjust it. We just have a buzz right now. And it's unfortunate. It's a technicality, but we're going to get through it together. And don't act like you ain't never had a buzz on a phone call or on a video or something. It's going to be okay. You know, this technology didn't even exist a couple of years ago. We'll be all right. Okay? All right, Jane Doe. So you were thrown into the car, and you said this deputy went around the car to the other side.
Okay, so as they're putting me in the car, they got my feet in, barely. So when my feet got in, they dropped me, and when the officers dropped me, they thought it was funny that they dropped me. Because I'm wiggling myself to get in the car. Because they're not even trying to help me get in the car. I'm wiggling my body at this point to get in the car.
Still naked, right?
Yeah, still naked. I'm still naked at this point.
Okay.
And when I tell you, one officer went around the car, and he goes around, and I feel somebody pulling my feet. Keep in mind, I'm still tied up at this point. My legs are tied, my feet are tied up, and I'm handcuffed.
You're basically like hog-tied, right?
I'm basically hog-tied, yes. I'm basically hog-tied. And I feel somebody touching my feet. When I turn my head to see what's going on and what's back there, what's going on, I just see him smiling. As he's pulling me into the car, he's smiling. So in my mind, I'm like, I know damn well he is not enjoying this view right now. Like, how can you possibly smile in this type of manner? Like, who does that?
A sick individual does that.
He closes the door, and then he comes around, and he slams the door shut. When he slams the door shut, the door hits me dead in my face. So, keep in mind, I'm laid out, face down, on my stomach, in the police car, and I'm laying there.
Is it hot?
In the heat, yes.
I was wondering because it's Antelope Valley, so
Yes.
was it
So
one of those
I'm
hot
laying
days?
there. Yeah, I'm laying there completely hot. I'm sweating. I'm laying in my blood. And I looked up at the officer, the same officer who pulled my seat. He was sitting up against the car, like with his arms folded, like he was chilling. So I looked up at him, and I said, "Sir, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Keep my asthma." So I'm telling him, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." And I'm face down in a car. He looks down at me and smiles again, and turns his head. So I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. So I'm still screaming. I'm beating my head up against the door. I'm beating my head up against the door to get his attention, to tell him I cannot breathe up in this car because it's hot in here. And he opens the door and tells me the AC is on. How the fuck is the AC on? And I'm telling you, it's hot in here. Ain't no AC on. And you gonna tell me the AC is on. There's no AC. So at this point, another officer comes to the car. And then when he comes, he has the blanket. He comes in and he just throws the blanket in the car on top of me. Keep in mind, there's no AC in this car. I'm face down with a cover on top of me. I roll over to get the cover off of me, and I fall onto the floorboard of the car. So I have to. I've got enough strength in my body to be able to get me up off this ground, to be able to sit up in the back of the police car. When I finally sit up, I see my aunt. She's turning the corner, and she just automatically stops her car in the middle of the street. She didn't park, nothing. She just hops out. She didn't even look in the police car direction. When she walked to my house, it's like she didn't even see me in the back of the police car. It's like she walked right past me. When she come back to the police car, I like lean my head up against the car trying to bang on it so she could hear that it's something moving back here. When she looked, she did like a double take. And what I did was I grabbed some blood from behind me and I smeared it onto the window just to show her that I'm back here undressed and I'm on my menstrual. I'm sitting in my own pool of blood at this point. And they're not caring. I'm back here in the back of the police car for like at least an hour and a half. With no care. They're not concerned about me being back here. And then on top of that, my auntie's confused to the fact that I'm on my menstrual in the back of the police car. Why am I on my menstrual in the back of the police car naked? Right. She's like, this is so inhumane. I can hear her. Cause it's like you can't hear the police car through the police car, but you can hear like a little bit. She's like, this is like inhumane. Where's her dignity? Where's her dignity? You can't do people like this. You can't treat people like that. Can I at least give her a tampon? The officer told her no. One officer told her no, you can't give her nothing because she could stick something up her private area. So she goes to another police officer and she asks him, can I at least give her something? Something. It don't gotta be nothing. Can I give her something? He like, yeah, but she gotta do it right here. I can't let her out to go in the car. She like, you can't let her go to the bathroom? And he said the same thing. No, because she can go in the house and put something in there. She's like, so she's going to go in the house and put something in her vagina? To hide something in her vagina, you won't let her put a tampon in? She's like, well, that's the only best thing I can do. Either she go put it on back here or she can't put it on at all. So, at this point, I'm taking the all or nothing. I need the tampon because I don't want to be sitting in no more blood. Like, I'm gushy at this point. Sorry, excuse my language.
No, keep it real, Jane Doe. Because as a woman... You remember when we first met, right? And I was really angry about this whole situation because, I suffer from fibroids. So my periods before I had my hysterectomy were mad crazy, right? And so I can only imagine I don't even think you have to be a black woman. You just have to be a woman, and just understand what it means to be on your period, naked, in this type of situation in front of a bunch of male deputies in the back of a patrol vehicle, and they don't give a damn. They have no respect for you, no respect for your body, none whatsoever. Every time I hear this, I get so angry because this could be any of us. When I took my shower today to come down to Morris Media Studios to do this show, I remember standing in the shower thinking, what would you do right now, Jasmine, if they came busting through your door and dragged you out the shower?
Yeah, and on top of that, I feel like I've been exploited. I feel every time I think about it, I feel like I've been molested, and I can't do anything about it. Like it's like only thing I can do is just like tell somebody to help me get through it. I can't do this on my own. These people violated me in the worst way that I would never even let my partner touch me. If I'm in a relationship with somebody, my partner don't even see my body like this. Let alone I got 30 other police officers that don't know me from a can of paint and thinking my body is something that is amusing to them.
And it's still all men, right? At this point, your aunt's there. She's trying to get a tampon to you, and just to be clear, it is still all male deputies, correct?
Yes, it's still all male deputies. There's no female officer on scene. This whole encounter, there was never a female officer on scene. When I finally got my tampon in, I was given my clothes after my clothes was already sitting on the back of the trunk. My clothes were sitting on the back of the trunk. One of the officers came to the car, and he asked me, he said, where's your clothes? I said, well, I have clothes in the house. It don't matter what you get me, just bring me something to cover up.
Right, at that point, right?
At that point, just bring me whatever. I don't even care at this point. Bring me something to cover me up. He goes in the house, he gets my clothes, and he sits my clothes on the trunk. So as I'm seeing my clothes sitting on the back of this trunk, I'm kicking in the car, give me my clothes, give me my clothes. They're ignoring me. All officers looking in the whole opposite direction. They're not even paying me no attention back here that I'm asking for my clothes or that I'm banging in the car asking for my clothes.
Well,
when the female officer arrived on scene, I was given my clothes and I was frisked when she arrived.
When you say free, you mean they took the handcuffs off of you?
Yeah.
So you could put your clothes on.
I was free to be able to put my tampon in, and after I put my tampon in, I was left uncuffed. They didn't cuff me anymore after I put my tampon in, and that was actually no less than maybe 7 minutes before a female officer arrived, before she came back and recuffed me and put me back into her patrol car.
And to be clear, when you did put your tampon on, did you do that in the back of the police car too?
Most definitely.
Yeah. So I also have another question. During all of this time, were they still looking for your brother? Or were they just standing around?
They're just standing around at this point. They didn't even, when they came in, I had an officer, actually when I was sitting in the back of the police car, one officer came to the car with a small video camera. It wasn't no body camera. It was a small video camera like you buy from Best Buy. And he's recording me, asking me all these questions like, which room is yours? Did we hurt you?
Did we hurt you?
Yeah, did we hurt you? Are you hurt? And I'm like, yes, I'm hurt. And he's like, oh, okay, we can talk about that when we get you to the hospital. And he closed the door and walks off. He's not wearing a body camera. He has a regular camera, like a camera.
So, and I know you're there, Brian, and we're going to come to you shortly because, we definitely got to bring you in, but I wanted for Jane Doe to get this story, her story out. So, they take you to the hospital.
Yes.
And then they take you to the Lancaster Sheriff's Station, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that because something really interesting happened to you there as well, correct? So for those of you who don't know, Jane Doe ended up being charged with 3 counts. I think it was 3 counts of resisting arrest, but they brought her to the sheriff's station and they made you a proposition, correct? Can you tell us about the proposition?
More like an ultimatum.
Okay, an ultimatum. What was the ultimatum?
So pretty much what it is that they claim that I illegally recorded them in my house when they came to do the search. They said that you recorded us illegally and you have an illegal video of us and we need that video off of your phone. Well, I said, I don't have my phone. You guys have my phone because you took it from my sister. I don't have my phone.
Which we see in the video.
Correct. And they said, well, in that video, you recorded us illegally. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't know how I could possibly record you guys illegally because you guys wear body cameras now. So I didn't know. So I'm pretty much like, okay, well, how did I record you illegally? He repeated himself. He said, you recorded us illegally. We need a copy of that video. And I said, well, okay, you have my phone. He said, okay, well, I said, sir, I really don't want to get out this car because I feel like you guys are arresting me for no apparent reason. You guys are putting me back there and putting me in this type of situation for no reason. And you guys are scaring me. And I'm finna start crying. He said, well, you can cry all you want because you're going to get out this car either way, right? So I'm like, well, how am I going to get out of the car? He said, well, you can either sign this paperwork stating that you recorded us illegally and we can release your phone and have you out of here within a minute. You won't even be back here. You won't sit back there no time. You will be released and we'll have you on your way. We'll send you right to cite you out with a ticket and we'll send you on your way. So, or we can mace you out the car. So I chose to sign this paperwork so I don't want to get maced. You're not going to mace me because I don't want to get out of the back of a police car. So it was either me sign paperwork or I get maced. And I signed the paperwork because I didn't want to be maced.
Where's your copy of that paperwork?
I don't have it. They didn't give me nothing. The only thing they gave me when they released me from me being there for 11 hours was my shoestrings that weren't even mine, and they gave me my cell phone. And that's it.
And let's talk about your cell phone. When you got your cell phone back, was everything on it?
No, my video that I recorded of them was edited to just only show me to only show him covering me up, throwing a blanket over me, and them arresting me. They edited the whole video once they got the video out of my sister's hand. It's gone. And they erased my backup. My backup from my phone is deleted.
How are you doing now?
I am honestly, as I keep reliving these moments, it brings me a lot of heartache because right now I'm holding back so many tears because I want you guys to actually just hear me and hear me say that I've experienced the ultimate disrespect and violation that you can ever possibly endure, period. And for me to have to keep telling myself every day that you are blessed to know that you had enough strength to not make those monsters do any more damage than what they've done. And I'm not doing good. Just to be honest, I'm not doing good because I can't wrap my mind around it to make me feel okay.
Right. Nor should you. Yeah, nor should you. But you are definitely very, very brave. You know, I've been telling you that, and I'm going to tell you that again. I think you're a very brave young woman. And Brian, attorney Brian Dunn, we need to bring you into this conversation because I want to know what laws we going to get changed and how many millions of dollars we going to get for Jane Doe.
Well, there's so much going on here, Jasmine. I mean, every time I hear the story, every time it's told to me, I get every bit as outraged as I was the first time that I heard it. Yeah. There are so many problems with what went on there. It's difficult to articulate where to begin.
Can we start with open the fucking door? Is that normal language for law enforcement when they come knocking?
Profanity is not illegal, but it's very disrespectful. But you have to ask yourself, Jasmine, and I keep asking myself the same thing. What good was done here? I mean, in terms of the concept of public safety, what good was done? Who was protected? How was the public's safety enhanced by this police activity? It did absolutely nothing. It achieved nothing. It investigated nothing. It solved nothing. There's absolutely no reason why they should have even been there in the first place, let alone why they should have even gone into the house in the first place, let alone why they should have gone in on a high-risk warrant that broke down the door of the house with the inhabitants there. And once inside the house, the manner in which they decided to detain Ms. Doe was completely out of proportion to anything that possibly could have been going wrong in the house. There was no illegal activity in the house. There were no people that had any kind of criminal history in the house. Why did all of this happen? You have to start with the genesis of this. There is a lot of discussion these days as to what good are the police really doing. Are we being over-policed as a society? When you look at a case like this, you have to ask yourself, well, if you had taken the police completely out of the equation, would we be better off or would we be worse off? And there's not a person in the world that would not agree with the statement that we would have been better off. If they had all stayed home that day and simply not done their job, this would have been much better for everyone that's involved.
Right.
And when you start breaking it down from that perspective, you see that pretty much everything they did was an effort to cover up the things that they did wrong.
Yes.
They're destroying evidence. When they destroy the videotape of what they did wrong, they are completely they have broken every protocol that exists with regard to how to detain an unclothed or scantily clad female. She can't be a suspect because she's not suspected of a crime. She just happens to be someone who was home when they asserted this warrant. So the manner in which they treated her, the contempt that they showed her, the disrespect that they showed her as a woman, is something that they'll never be able to explain. So instead, what do? They try to blame her. This is a situation that completely shows how far gone this particular department has become when it comes to the basic understanding of human rights, the basic understanding of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which allows them to conduct a search under very limited circumstances. And we start looking at the situation from the perspective of, not from one perspective or the other perspective, but just from the perspective of society. Why did this happen?
Right.
Why did this have to happen?
And would this have happened to a white woman? You know, that's what I think about too.
We've had a lot of documented acts of excessive force that have seemed to have gone on unchecked in that particular station for a long time. Not too long ago, I represented Marion White, who was shot and paralyzed while unarmed in that region. We've seen a lot of problems. You and I both met with the father of Richard Lugo, who was shot and killed only a couple of months ago, unarmed in that particular area. So you start to have a situation where you've got a group of sheriffs that seem to be acting on their own. They seem to be acting without regard to the United States Constitution, without regard to the rule of law. And when you see the way that they treated Jane Doe, you can see that that's the way that they've been raised. That's the way they've been taught to think. And the reason why they think that way is because they've been doing this for so long. There's not one voice that's saying, well, maybe we should do something differently. You have individuals that are smirking, that have no regard to her suffering. They are completely disdainful when it comes to her basic questions with regard to how to handle her menstrual cycle, how to be clothed. All of these things seem to be completely foreign to their consciousness. Why? because they've been taught to believe that. They've been taught to believe that they're above the law. They've been taught to believe that the law doesn't apply to them. And when we look at what's happening, they still somehow want to blame her for the way that she acted. I think that she showed under the circumstances, she showed a remarkable amount of restraint. But I go back to the same basic question. What good are the police doing in our society generally? Okay, we want them to protect us. We want them to serve. We want them to act in a manner that will protect us from harm, that will essentially act as a barrier for the criminal activity that could be happening. But here, what good did they do?
Absolutely.
And you always have to look at it in terms of that.
Absolutely.
This is not even a situation where a crime had been committed. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So let me say a couple of things. When I sent out an email earlier today to my email list, and you can get on my email list if you want at iamjasmyne.com. One of my very dear friends who I have a lot of respect for, who is a police officer, sent me an email back saying, "Another one-sided conversation. No, thank you." To which I replied, well, you know what the company line is, which is we don't speak on pending litigation. But I will say this again. If anyone from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is feeling brave enough to come in or come on by Skype or by phone and have a conversation with me about Jane Doe's case, let's do it. I'm all for it. Absolutely.
Jasmine, there's not another side to this, okay?
I don't think there is either.
Someone's saying Jane Doe just told you everything that happened. Okay,
right.
If they're going to ask you, if you're going to see from their side, they're going to say, okay, we were serving a high-risk warrant because we had information that there may be weapons or something in the house. Okay, even if you give them that, and even if you give them the idea that, okay, we arrested someone and he said that house might be associated with criminal activity, so we had to do this. Okay, where's the investigation to determine whether or not there's anyone in the house that may be someone that you're looking for or that may be associated with criminal activity? You had 2 children there and a single mom who are doing absolutely nothing wrong. They're completely obeying the law and they're in their home. You cannot underestimate the fact that they are in their home. So what else is the Sheriff's Department going to say? Well,
Brian,
we had the authorization from a magistrate to conduct the warrant in this manner. Okay, well, how did you get that authorization? Well, why did you even need that authorization? For what purpose did you break down the door as opposed to a much more sensible approach, which would have been to take positions of cover behind your cars across the street, get on the loudspeaker, and take your time and try to alert the people inside the house to the fact that you're there. It's not like you have a risk of being shot at because there's nothing in the house. Now, what if they were going to say, well, we didn't want to do that because, hypothetically speaking, suppose the people that were inside the house had weapons, and suppose if we had done that, they would have shot at us. Well, if you are taking positions of cover behind your vehicles, what is going to be the threat if something like that happens? And the idea that this is a fast-moving situation, which is what they also are very prone to say, also belies the fact that why is this a fast-moving situation? It's because they made it into a fast-moving situation. It's because the manner in which this warrant was served left no time for anything to occur inside the house that would have alerted the people inside the house to even know that they were police officers. And then if we take it from the position of, you have several officers there. You have several officers, they have these high-powered weapons. Detaining Ms. Doe should only be a manner of keeping her in one portion of the house while you search the house. You can determine that there are no weapons in that house in less than a minute. Then get out of the house, apologize to her, and go home. Why does this incident then become so about arresting her? What has she done?
Right.
Well, they'll say, well, she resisted arrest. She disobeyed an officer in the lawful performance of her duties. She essentially disobeyed an officer. Well, you have to ask yourself this question. What did she do that broke the law?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And if you look at the fact, well, she didn't break the law, but when we talked to her, she didn't act the way she wanted to, so therefore she broke the law. So what you've done now is you have bootstrapped a criminal violation out of nowhere. You've made it up because you're basically saying, well, after we were there, there's a certain protocol that she should have had. No one got injured here except her. She wasn't swinging at anybody. She wasn't punching anybody. She wasn't trying to hurt anyone. All she was trying to do was assert some form of dignity in her house, which we would expect of any woman of any race that's dealing with this type of police activity. I'm sorry if I'm angry, Jasmine.
No, I'm angry with you. So a couple of things, right? Because we got about 10 minutes left and I want to get into a couple of things. So one, earlier you were saying, well, what could the sheriffs possibly say, right? Well, it made me think about our gang database, and it made me think about her 13-year-old sister and her 5-year-old son, and how we've had 5-year-olds in the gang database. We've had 13-year-olds in the gang database. Like, they come up with all kinds of creative things. I also think it's very interesting in this particular case that, and I'm going to try to get to some of the Facebook comments too, but I don't want this to be overlooked. They were there looking for her brother, who was already in custody.
He was incarcerated.
Who was
already
in custody. And the only person at the end of the day, the only person who got slapped with criminal charges was Jane Doe, because the brother's charges were dropped.
They're still trying to get her
She doesn't have to apologize for shit. Okay, because if it was me, I might have been dead, because my mouth is just so bad, and I could just know Jasmine does not need to be in that kind of situation. I think Jane Doe, as upset as she was and she still is, still showed a remarkable amount of restraint, because as women, right, we all would have been resisting, right? If that's their definition of resisting. I don't know too many women who would willfully be dragged outside naked in front of a bunch of male deputies and their entire neighborhood. Okay? That is absolutely ridiculous. So, Shannon Thomas asked on Facebook, Shannon missed the beginning, and wanted to know why Jane Doe waited a year to talk about it. That's a great question. I'm going to kind of say a little bit. I'm going to toss it to Jane Doe and to Brian, but also I want to say one of the reasons why we can talk about this case right now is because there is, people are paying attention to police violence in a way that they weren't a year ago. People are also paying attention to what's going on in the Antelope Valley in a way that they weren't a year ago. Sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes you have to strike at a certain time. And the timing was really good. And I hate to say it like that, right? Because the timing was only good because we had 2 hangings and there.
Well, it's not just that. But, you know, that's my doing, okay? If anyone wants to blame someone for the delay or ask why, I am the reason why the delay occurred. Jane Doe wanted to talk about this right after it occurred.
That's true.
And I'm the one that said, wait, we have to see what's going to happen with this criminal case. We have to see where this is going to shake out. I am the reason as an attorney why it didn't happen sooner. And the reason why it's happening now is because we can see that this criminal case is not going to go away. We're in the same position that we're going to be in. I don't know when there's going to ever be a trial again in the Los Angeles County based on the pandemic.
Right.
So this is something whose time has come. Yeah. And the story is just as disgusting now as it was when it occurred.
That's right.
And, you know, there is no, it's just the same story. But the idea of waiting, that was something that you should blame the attorney, blame me. Because right after an incident happens, if I don't know what the situation is going to be involving a criminal case or lack thereof, I'm typically going to say anything can be used against you. Let's just hold off. But that's on me. That's not on Jane Doe.
That's right. So Jeanette Robinson Flint wanted to know if Jane Doe is pressing civil or criminal charges against the sheriff's department. Unfortunately, we as civilians do not have the right to press criminal charges against the sheriff's department. If we did, though, There would be a whole
Well,
lot of
you'd have
cases
a lot of
filed.
issues going on there. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
civil
civil
case.
cases. We haven't even talked in terms of monetary damages. But really, more than anything, Jasmine, what this family wants, and I don't say just Jane Doe, I say the whole family.
Yes.
What they want is for this to not happen to someone else.
Right.
What they want is for there to be some form of humanity and compassion to be infused into the police work that is occurring in their community. This is a situation that is emblematic of the way that the police have dealt with this community for years. And we need to bring attention to the public so that at least the police will know, number one, we did this to the wrong woman and the wrong family.
That's right.
And number two, maybe we should consider an alternative approach to the way that we're handling folks. And how would we like that if someone treated my wife like that or my daughter like that?
That's right.
And, if we can get folks thinking along those lines, then maybe we can get to the situation where the community's relationship with law enforcement won't be so ruptured the way that it is now.
Well, I appreciate that. We are coming to the end of our hour. I told you that 60 minutes goes by really, really, really fast. Jane Doe, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, so I just want to tell you, girl, you got a lot of support and love on Facebook right now. Folks are rooting for you, and I will make sure that you are able to read everyone's comments. I will get those to you. Be strong. The community is behind you, and your strength in coming forward and talking about your story is I hope it's empowering to you. Right? It makes you feel better. Like, yeah, I'm owning this. I'm telling my story. But know that, what you're doing with Brian, the work that you two are doing together around this is going to make a difference for women in the future. Right? So that, like Brian said, this doesn't happen to another woman. Right? Another woman is not dragged out of her home. I appreciate you both for coming on this evening. Thank you so much. For folks who want to learn more about the Cochran firm or may have a legal question for Brian, the Cochran firm is online at cochranfirmlaw.com. They're also on social media. So please feel free to check them out as well. They are one of our leading civil rights, Black-owned civil rights law firms in not just in LA, but in the state of California. And they do really, really, really great work. And I'm so proud of you, Brian, and the work that you've been doing to keep Johnny Cochran's legacy alive. Thank you so much.
Can I
Thank
say
you.
one more thing?
Yes. Say your one more thing, girl.
I just want everyone to just pray for my healing as I need to heal through this emotional trauma that I'm going through right now. I just need everyone's prayer. That's all I ask for, just to pray for me to be able to get through this.
Okay, prayer warriors, you heard what Jane Doe asked for. She's asking for you to pray for her and her family. So that is what we need for you to do. All right? So that is going to do it for this edition of Str8 No Chaser with me, Jasmyne Cannick. The Court of Opinion will stay open on Facebook. You can continue to leave your comments and your questions. I want to thank tonight's guest, Jane Doe, and attorney Brian Dunn. As always, I want to thank my girl, Felicia Poetess Morris, and Morris Media Studios in Leimert Park for hosting me. Follow me on social media. My website is iamjasmine.com. If you have a topic that you think would be great for my podcast, send me an email, send me a message on social media. Let's talk about it. If I think it's good, maybe we'll do it. All right. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.